quietly, without fanfare, without a single missile fired, a Nordic country that most people associate with fjords, oil wealth, and winter sports just delivered one of the most consequential defense agreements that Ukraine has signed since the start of the war. And here's what makes this so devastating for Russia. It's not a one-time aid package. It's a permanent production partnership that will put Ukrainian-designed, battle-tested drones on Norwegian assembly lines, thousands of kilometers from the nearest Russian missile, in one of the richest and most geopolitically secure countries on Earth. What Norway just did for Ukraine is brutal, and Putin can't touch it. On April 14, 2026, hours after signing a €4 billion defense deal with Germany in Berlin, President Volodymyr Zelensky flew to Oslo and sat down with Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre. What they signed was a joint declaration on enhanced defense and security cooperation, a document that covers air defense, drones, electronic warfare, maritime security, and joint defense production. But the headline is the drone deal. Under this agreement, Norway will support the production of drones in Ukraine. Ukraine will share its combat data, technologies, and battlefield knowledge with Norway, and, this is the part that should terrify Moscow, Ukrainian drones will be manufactured on Norwegian territory. Let that land for a moment. Ukrainian drones, built in Norway, out of range of every Russian cruise missile, every Shahed swarm, every Iskander ballistic missile in Russia's arsenal. Production that cannot be disrupted by the same strikes that have been targeting Ukrainian factories, power stations, and industrial infrastructure for over 4 years. This is not just a defense deal, it is a production sanctuary, and it changes the calculus of Russia's entire strategy of industrial attrition. But stick with us, because the details of this partnership reveal why it matters far more than the headlines suggest. Zelensky described the agreement as the first step toward a full drone deal with Norway. He told reporters that Ukraine's drone experience is already being used in the Middle East and the Gulf, and that the two countries are working together on improving defense against Shahed-type drones and developing new capabilities. PM Støre was even more direct about why Norway wants in. We can learn from the experiences that Ukraine is making in this hard-won fight against the Russian aggression, he said. It is crucial that we learn from these experiences. Don't underestimate the significance of that statement. The Prime Minister of a NATO country, a country that shares an Arctic border with Russia, is publicly acknowledging that Ukraine's drone warfare expertise has surpassed anything Norway can develop on its own. And rather than spending years and billions trying to catch up through domestic R&D, Norway is doing the smart thing, plugging directly into the most advanced combat drone ecosystem on the planet. And let's be clear about what that ecosystem looks like in April 2026. Ukraine's defense industry can produce more than 8 million FPV drones per year. Over 160 companies manufacture drones across the country. The Brave One Defense Marketplace lists 1,343 drone models and variants. Interceptor drones now account for 30% of all air defense kills. Ukrainian drones struck over 106,000 targets in December 2025 alone. In March, Ukraine outshot Russia in cross-border drone strikes for the first time in the entire war. The Unmanned Systems Forces, the world's first dedicated drone military branch, represent just 2.2% of Ukraine's armed forces, but deliver more than 35% of all confirmed damage to enemy targets. That is the ecosystem Norway just connected to, not as a customer buying finished products off a shelf, as a partner that will co-produce, share data, and manufacture on its own soil. The implications are enormous. Here's why the Norwegian connection is particularly dangerous for Russia's war strategy. Since the full-scale invasion began, one of Russia's most effective tactics has been targeting Ukraine's production infrastructure. Factories get bombed. Power stations that supply those factories get bombed. Supply chains get disrupted. Workers get displaced. Russia's theory is simple. If you can destroy the factories faster than Ukraine can build drones, you win the production war. Norway breaks that equation. A drone production line in Norway operates under the protection of NATO's Article 5 Collective Defense Guarantee. It draws power from Norway's hydroelectric grid, which is one of the most resilient energy systems in Europe. It accesses Norwegian supply chains, Norwegian capital markets, and Norwegian logistics networks, none of which Russia can touch without triggering a direct war with the entire NATO alliance. Every Ukrainian drone that rolls off a Norwegian production line is a drone that Russia's long-range strike campaign failed to prevent. And the financial muscle behind this partnership is staggering. Norway has committed approximately $28 billion in support for Ukraine between 2023 and 2030, making it one of Ukraine's most generous donors per capita on Earth. The 2026 budget alone allocates 85 billion Norwegian kroner, roughly 7.66 billion euros, with 70 billion Norwegian kroner directed specifically to military aid. In 2025, as American support wavered, Norway more than doubled its aid to Ukraine. When other allies hesitated, Oslo stepped up. That track record gives this drone partnership a financial foundation that few other countries could match. Norway has already been deeply involved in Ukraine's air defense architecture. Through the US-led Jumpstart procurement mechanism, Oslo has funded over 10 billion Norwegian kroner, close to $1 billion in 2025 alone, for the procurement of air defense equipment. That includes F-16 ammunition, laser-guided precision missiles, S-300 air defense rounds that Ukraine desperately needs, and advanced systems that convert low-cost missiles into precision-guided munitions. Norway contributed to the international F-16 coalition, donating 6 jets to Ukraine, currently being refurbished in Belgium for delivery. And Norway is part of the NATO capability coalition specifically focused on drones and autonomous systems. But the F-16 story reveals something important about why the drone deal matters so much. Norway's 6 donated F-16s are still in Belgium being prepared. They haven't reached Ukraine yet. Delivery isn't expected until 2027. That's the speed of traditional military aid. Slow, bureaucratic, dependent on maintenance facilities and training pipelines that take years to build. Drone production is different. A drone factory can be set up in months. A production line can scale in weeks. Workers can be trained in days. The feedback loop from battlefield to factory to front line operates at a pace that traditional weapons procurement simply cannot match. This is why Zelensky went to Oslo talking about drones, not jets, because drones deliver capability now. And now is the only timeline that matters in a war that has been grinding for over 4 years. There's also a maritime dimension to the Norway-Ukraine partnership that deserves attention, because this isn't just about aerial drones. Norway is one of the world's leading maritime nations. It operates one of the largest merchant fleets on Earth. Its naval industry, including Kongsberg, the company behind the NASAMS air defense system already deployed in Ukraine, has expertise in autonomous maritime systems, underwater vehicles, and naval surveillance technology that directly complements Ukraine's own pioneering work in naval drones. Ukraine's sea drones sank or damaged a significant portion of Russia's Black Sea fleet. Norway's maritime technology sector could help take that capability to the next level: smarter, longer range, more autonomous. The declaration specifically mentions maritime security as a key cooperation area. That's not accidental. In other words, this isn't a partnership that came out of nowhere. It's the culmination of years of deepening cooperation built on trust, sustained financial commitment, and a shared understanding that what Ukraine learns on the battlefield today will define how NATO fights tomorrow. But here's where the story gets even bigger, because Norway's deal wasn't signed in isolation. It was signed on the same day that Germany agreed to a €4 billion defense package with Ukraine, including what Zelensky called the largest drone production agreement in Europe. The day before, Spain and Belgium pledged a combined €2 billion in new military aid. In late March, Bulgaria signed a 10-year security agreement with Ukraine. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Jordan have all signed defense cooperation deals with Kyiv. Japan's TerraDrone Corporation has invested millions in Ukrainian interceptor drones. 8 Middle East countries, plus Turkey, Iraq, and nations in Southeast Asia and Africa, have approached Ukraine about drone partnerships. Do you see the pattern? Ukraine is not just receiving weapons anymore. It is building a global network of drone production partnerships that spans from Oslo to Berlin to Riyadh to Tokyo. Each partnership puts Ukrainian drone technology on foreign soil that Russia cannot bomb. Each partnership adds industrial capacity that Russia cannot match. And each partnership feeds combat data back to Ukrainian engineers who use it to make the next generation of drones even more lethal. This is the drone web, and it's growing faster than Russia can cut it. Now, what does this mean specifically for Ukraine's fight against Russia's Shahed-type drones? Because this is where Norway's partnership hits the hardest. Zelensky was explicit in Oslo. As we speak, many Shaheds are in Ukrainian skies, and missiles may also be used. We must keep our air defense supplied. In March alone, Russia launched 6,462 drones at Ukraine. The economics of defending against these swarms have been brutal. A single Patriot interceptor costs $4 million. A Shahed costs Russia about $35,000. If Ukraine relied solely on Patriots to stop March's swarms, the cost would exceed $25 billion. That's obviously insane. Even cheaper systems like the Coyote cost $125,000 per shot. This is exactly why interceptor drones have become so critical. Ukraine's domestically produced drone interceptors cost a fraction of missile-based systems and have already proven they can take down Shaheds at scale, 30% of all air defense kills and climbing. Ukraine is producing these systems in increasing numbers, with internal production already 8 times higher in 2026 than in 2025. More than 20 Ukrainian companies are working in this field. What the Norwegian partnership adds is production redundancy and scale. If Ukrainian interceptor drone designs can be manufactured in Norway using Norwegian industrial capacity, Norwegian capital, and Norwegian supply chain resilience, then the total output of the system increases without putting additional strain on Ukraine's war-damaged infrastructure. Norway builds the drones, Ukraine deploys them. Russia's Shaheds die, and the cost equation tilts further and further against Moscow with every unit produced. There's another angle here that's easy to miss. Norway is an Arctic nation. It shares a border with Russia in the north. It operates in some of the most extreme weather conditions on Earth. Drone technology that works in Norwegian conditions, cold, wind, limited visibility, maritime environments, is drone technology that works everywhere NATO might need to operate. The partnership doesn't just help Ukraine. It builds Norwegian defense capability for its own Arctic security challenges. Stora said it himself, this is mutually beneficial. And here's the broader implication that should worry Putin more than any single weapon system. Every partnership Ukraine signs makes it harder for Russia to win the production war. Every factory that opens on Allied soil is a factory Russia cannot destroy. Every data-sharing agreement accelerates the development of counter-Russian technologies. Every new production line increases the total volume of drones flowing to the front line. Russia's strategy of attrition, of grinding Ukraine down through sheer volume of strikes and sheer destruction of infrastructure, depends on one assumption, that Ukraine's production capacity has a ceiling. Norway, Germany, Japan, the Gulf states, and every other partner joining this network are systematically raising that ceiling beyond Russia's ability to reach it. And here's the part that makes this truly irreversible for Moscow. These partnerships aren't charity, they're investments. Norway isn't giving Ukraine money out of kindness, it's buying access to the most valuable combat technology portfolio in the world. Germany isn't signing joint ventures out of solidarity, it's accelerating its own defense capabilities by decades. Japan isn't investing in interceptor drones for altruistic reasons. It's preparing for its own potential conflict in the Indo-Pacific. Every partner has a self-interested reason to make this work. And self-interest is the most durable foundation for any alliance. That means these partnerships won't evaporate if the political winds change. They won't disappear if a new government takes office in Oslo or Berlin. They're locked in by mutual benefit, by signed contracts, by production lines that employ local workers, by data sharing agreements that have already delivered results. Russia can't sanction them away. It can't bomb them away. It can't negotiate them away. They are permanent structural advantages that compound over time, and time is the one resource Russia is running out of. Putin launched his invasion expecting Ukraine to crumble. Instead, Ukraine built the most innovative defense industry on the planet. And now that industry is replicating itself across allied nations like a network that grows a new node every month. Norway is the latest node. It won't be the last. Zelensky put it simply after signing the agreement. I personally thank Jonas, Norway, and all Norwegians for their military and energy assistance to Ukraine. We feel your support and are sincerely grateful for it. But gratitude doesn't capture the strategic magnitude of what just happened in Oslo. What happened is that a country of 5 million people, sitting on one of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds, with a NATO Article 5 guarantee, an Arctic border with Russia, and a $28 billion commitment to Ukraine's defense, just agreed to become a permanent production hub for the most battle-tested drone technology on Earth. Ukrainian engineers will share the designs, Norwegian factories will build them, Russian Shaheds will die because of them, and every single unit that rolls off a Norwegian production line will be a unit that Putin's missiles cannot prevent, Putin's electronic warfare cannot jam, and Putin's strategy of exhaustion cannot outlast. Norway didn't fire a shot. It didn't send a single soldier to the front. It did something more devastating than either. It opened its factories to the most innovative military industry in the world and told Russia, "We're building the weapons that will beat you, and there's nothing you can do about it." Zelensky announced plans to open 10 more joint drone ventures by the end of 2026. 10. In countries spanning from Western Europe to the Middle East to the Indo-Pacific, each one a new node in a production network that Russia cannot reach, cannot disrupt, and cannot outproduce. Norway is the latest. Germany was hours earlier. Japan was last month. The Gulf states were the month before that. The web grows. The output increases. And every Shahed that Russia builds becomes a little less effective, a little more expensive relative to the interceptor that will kill it, and a little more pointless against a defense network that is evolving faster than Moscow can adapt. That's not aid, that's infrastructure. And infrastructure, unlike ammunition, doesn't run out. If you found value in this breakdown, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because these defense partnerships are reshaping the war faster than most people realize. We've got much more coming, and you'll want to be here when the next deal drops. We'll see you in the next one.